It's no secret. Potters know it. In the past, lead was commonly used as a component in glazes. Battery manufacturers know it. Lead is used to make battery plates and terminals. Parents know it. They learned the hard way that children may eat chips or dust from lead-based paint. It's no secret. Lead is a potential health hazard for anyone who comes into contact with it. Lead has been recognized as a hazard as far back as the 4th century BC. Records from thousands of years ago tell of a crude respirator made from a goat's bladder. Today, nearly everyone has had some exposure to lead. Car and factory emissions have been common sources of it. However, continuing research and legislation have provided greater control over the use of lead and the average citizen's exposure to it. Most people have had only minimal contact with lead, not enough to cause harmful consequences. But for those working in the construction industry, lead often remains part of the job, creating a potential hazard. Many workers in a variety of jobs have a very real chance of suffering lead's harmful effects. These effects range from short-term and somewhat mild symptoms, such as limb pain or loss of appetite, to long-term and severe consequences, kidney failure, or even death. And while the risk is primarily to people on the job, exposure to lead is also a possibility for workers' families. Lead dust or particles can easily be carried home on clothing or skin, and its effects felt by those who are unaware of the hazard and unprotected. More on the health effects in a later segment. In the construction industry, a number of hazards have been identified for various types of workers. For lead, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, lists these jobs where workers may be at risk. Primarily, abrasive blasting of lead-painted surfaces, welding, cutting, and/or burning steel that is coated with lead-based paint, painting or hand-scraping lead-based paint, cleaning with power tools such as chipping, sanding, or wire brushing, industrial vacuuming, and assisting in any of these tasks. In addition, residential lead abatement may also present a lead hazard. If these jobs are being performed at your work site, your employees may be at risk for exposure to lead. And as with any job-related risk, you're required to provide safety precautions. For lead exposures above the permissible exposure limit of 50 micrograms per cubic meter over an 8-hour shift, OSHA requires a written compliance program. This program must include a description of all lead exposure activities and the means used to achieve compliance, a report of all the technology considered in meeting the PEL, air monitoring data documenting the lead exposures, a schedule for implementing the compliance program, the work practice program, the administrative control schedule, if applicable, and a description of arrangements between contractors on multi-contractor sites regarding lead. Each worker must be adequately trained as part of the compliance program. This training must include a review of the entire standard for lead in construction, those operations which may create exposures above the action level of 30 micrograms per cubic meter. This is the level at which specific actions must be taken by your employer. Respiratory protection, medical surveillance and medical removal programs, engineering and work practice controls, the compliance plan, restrictions on the use of chelating agents, and employees' right of access to records. Failure to create, implement, and monitor a program of safety procedures can result in significant legal and financial consequences. Both OSHA and the EPA can write citations and levy fines. For OSHA, up to $70,000 for a single violation. Lead contamination of soil or water carries serious EPA penalties, as well as costs for cleanup. Some of the employer's costs may be hidden, but are often even greater than the obvious costs. Liability lawsuits, loss of productivity or time on the job, training new workers, economic loss to the worker's family. These are costs that affect employers' long-term financial health and ability to do business. It's no secret that lead is a potential health hazard. And it's no secret that hazards can be managed through safety precautions and consistent, informed use of them. Both employees and employers, and friends, spouses, and children benefit when the risk of lead exposure is recognized and safely managed. It may be in the air as particles or fumes. It may be coating work surfaces or on the ground as dust or chips. You may not be able to see it, taste it, or smell it. But lead may still be present at your job site. It's a hazard that doesn't have an alarm. If lead is there, exposure can occur quickly, easily. And if you're on site, you could be driving in it, wearing it, eating it, and breathing it.
At work, I have a set of what I call welding greens. This consists of a pair of pants and a jacket, which goes over your regular clothes. And you might be working with that where you have the dust, the iron dust coming on you. So that's one reason you wear the dress greens, and also you burn and welding, which helps. They're fire protected, resistant, so you don't burn your clothes up or get burnt yourself. And you're always getting a lead base on you from the paint itself when you're grinding in that.
Because lead is often unseen and undetected, construction workers may be unknowingly exposed to it. Even when workers are aware of the presence of lead, they sometimes choose to risk its effects rather than follow safety procedures. It's a mistake. Lead can gain access to the body through two means, or routes of entry. One route is inhalation. Your employees can inhale fumes or dust, taking the lead deep into the lungs. From there, lead enters the bloodstream. Or your employees can ingest lead. Particles or dust that are on skin or lips can enter the body by eating, drinking, or smoking. From the mouth, lead travels to the stomach and intestines and into the bloodstream. Whether through inhalation, the most common route of entry, or ingestion, when lead is in the bloodstream, it travels throughout the body. Some of the lead is excreted, but some of it circulates in the blood and gets stored in the organs, such as the kidneys and liver, and in the fatty tissues and bones. The amount of lead stored in the body will eventually decrease, but it may take years. And the longer lead is in the body, the more permanent damage it can do. Additional exposure increases stored lead and increases the potential for physical damage.
Somebody is exposed to a high amount of lead on an acute basis, meaning that they have a particular job where they're grinding or cutting through a lead-covered structure. They can get a very high dose of lead into their body in a very short amount of time. When this happens, the main effect that we see is central nervous system effect, which is it can cause the person to become foggy, have difficulty concentrating, and then can even lead to convulsions and loss of consciousness in this way. So if somebody has an acute exposure to it, then what we worry about the most is central nervous system type of effect. If somebody has a chronic exposure or high exposures on a little bit longer basis, then they can go on to develop the other problems that I described, namely peripheral nerve problems where they can't use their hands and feet properly, also kidney damage, and the central nervous system effects like trouble with memory and concentration. Those can go on to become chronic as well, depending on how much damage has been done, what level of lead continues to circulate in the body, and so on.
Well, not up until I've started getting real bad abdominal pains, but At the time, I thought it was just a flu, stomach flu. I checked into the hospital because they were so severe that I just couldn't tolerate it no more. It felt like someone just had a hold of my insides and was taking them literally out.
An acute response occurs after short-term exposure to a high level of lead. With this kind of exposure, symptoms include pain in the limbs and abdomen and vomiting. With a short exposure to an extremely high level of lead, there may be respiratory failure, coma, or even death. After years of moderate exposure to lead, the symptoms become chronic, ranging from anemia, excessive tiredness, insomnia, weight loss, and abdominal pain to tremors, wrist drop, or convulsions. The various toxic effects of lead can be so subtle that they're difficult to detect, and even more difficult to blame on lead. Headache and irritability are common symptoms that may not even be noticed. Other symptoms are more obvious and destructive. Impotence, a decreased sex drive, and damaged sperm or eggs causing birth defects are among the effects of lead stored in the body. For construction workers, the toxic effects of lead can be quite serious, but the effects on children are especially tragic.
Children generally at much lower levels exhibit central nervous system toxicity. They have trouble with memory, concentration, and it can actually impact on their intellectual function and cause learning disabilities once children go to school. Adults seem to be able to tolerate a little bit higher levels of lead so that they don't exhibit the same effects unless they have a much higher level in their bloodstream.
It's hard enough to bring up a child, but to bring a child up with a defect is even harder. And so that was one of my very main concerns right there, that if my children would be born with any kind of defects whatsoever, what kind of level do we have to have? What is safe for us to go ahead and have children?
The effects of exposure to lead are serious, too serious to risk. While lead on the job site may not be noticeable, it may still be there. You, your workers, and their families need to be aware of this hazard without an alarm. It's up to you to start and follow through with a program for preventing lead's harmful effects. Is lead present on the job site? How can workers be effectively protected from its effects? These are the questions that need to be asked in order to put together the lead hazard puzzle. Data, standards, and a variety of protective measures all combine to keep workers safe from lead exposure. But the first step is asking questions. As an employer, you're responsible for determining whether your employees will be exposed to lead at or above the action level and informing them of the results. You must also be prepared to designate a competent person if the lead exposures are suspected to exceed the permissible exposure limit, or PEL. This competent person must be someone who is trained and knowledgeable in recognizing lead hazard and has the expertise and authority to make changes in process or materials. Also, this person must do inspections of the job site, materials, and equipment. The key to putting the lead hazard puzzle together is information and exposure assessment, the process of deciding whether an employee may be exposed to lead at or above the action level, is the first piece of the